Bienvenidos. So La Bruja Espinada and I'm here with a very special summer solstice reading. So let's get started. There's been a lot of transition, a lot of shifting, a lot of crazy things happening. And this summer solstice is that transition from spring into summer, that feeling of abundance. Things are growing, things are becoming more plentiful. And while things may seem tough, there's always a brighter side, right? And this shows with the Page of Coins. That is our key card for the day. We have at the bottom the Hermit, the Devil, Strength, the Seven of Wands, the Queen of Cups, the King of Swords, the Page of Cups, the King of Wands, Death, the Emperor, the Tower card, the Ace of Coins, the Empress. I'm gonna hold on to this card. It might be relevant, so I might pull it. Let's start off with the Page of Coins. There are new resources that are coming to you at this time. They're going to be more readily available to you, whether this is information, whether this is connection, whether this is a workplace venture or a job. Something is coming to you now because it is a page. This is a learning experience, right? So the page is someone who is starting off with something new. They are in a state of learning at this point. So when it comes to the Page of Coins, I've said this time and time and again, if you watch the majority of my readings, whenever the page, especially when it's the Page of Coins is here, this is a major indicator that you need to learn how to properly manage your resources. This is the key time. So let's say, for example, there are times where like you get your finances situated and then either you decide, you know what, I'll splurge this time, and then one splurge leads to another, or rather you are trying to better your resource situation, your financial situation, and yet people keep coming to you for financial assistance while you don't entirely have the means. You bury yourself in those issues, and then it becomes your burden in the long run while other people resolve their own issues. The page is here to, or maybe you've made bad investments in the past, that didn't turn out to be the best venture, or you may have come on to a job opportunity or a partnership opportunity that'll allow you to have more reliable resource flow that you've never had before. So whether it's the first examples or this one, this is an indicator to become more knowledgeable in the way to manage these resources, whether they're financial, whether they're connections, whether it doesn't matter what the type of resource that's coming into you is. This is the indicator that it is time to learn the best way possible for you to manage this so that you are out of the shadow of ever impending financial streets. Money's an energy. These types of monetary resources, whether it's income flow, whether it's gigs, whether it's it doesn't matter how it is that you're ascertaining these resources. What matters is how you nurture that flow that's going to help you continue to receive that abundance. You have to learn how to manage that. A lot of the times we fall into bad habits. And the reason why I know this is because we have back to back, we have the hermit and we have the devil. When the hermit comes out, the hermit is a symbol of reflection. You have to go within. You have to be real with yourself. And trust me, there are so many indicators here that are pointing to the needing to be honest with yourself. Like, quit blaming other people, quit, if the same person keeps coming to you, let's say it's a family member that keeps coming to you for financial help, and you're constantly the one that they go to, and yet you're always left in the rut, that's a decision that you made, right? Because if they keep coming to you and they can't get the assistance from anyone else, is it because you're the only one that folds? And you may be constantly unhappy with this situation, and yet you keep repeating the same pattern. That may be for some of you, that not all of you, but is that an indicator? Again, reflect on it. Is it because you're doing too much, treating yourself too much? Could it be that, there may be some type of over shopping, overspending in some cases, trying to keep up with the Joneses? Be real with yourself. This is why the hermit is here. The hermit is here to call you to go within and be real with yourself. It's that come to Jesus moment, if you are familiar with the term. It's that, meeting your maker is not the term that I want to use, because that's not what it's relevant to, but I'm trying to think of some other non-Christian based faith sayings. But the fact of the matter is, you need to start looking in the mirror and be real with yourself, and start getting to the nitty gritty of it all, of what it is that's causing it. And that's why it's followed by the devil card. The devil card is that, is the vices, right? What are your vices? And that's why I'm saying, like, the hermit is backed up by the devil card when it comes to the page of coins, when you're trying to get financially right, so to speak. The devil card is here because there are bad habits, right? Again, is it because you enjoy a drink too many? Is it because you feel at this time like you have to have name brands, when the reality is you don't need them, you just want them? Why do you want them? Are you trying to keep up with the Joneses? And is it even within your means to do so? Do you have bills that really need to be paid off? Do you have debts to people or companies or banks or whatever that really need to be paid off, and yet you're out and about doing things that with that money could have been paid off, or could have helped pay off a little bit more of that debt? Be real with yourself. The devil is your vices. This isn't the first time it's come out, to be honest. Recently it's been very persistent. So I'm assuming either there's new people that haven't heard this, or someone just isn't letting it go and sink in where it's supposed to, right? They're letting it go in through one ear and out the other, or they're just ignoring it. That's not me, or like, I'll get to it later. This is a sign that you need to cut that shit out already. Cut that shit out. It is time to finally address it. And it's not an easy thing to do, because then we're followed by strength. See here, we have this individual that is fighting a creature that is crocodile, that is lion, and that is, I'm assuming, bear. It takes a lot of strength to tackle the truth, that inner truth, the truth that you can't keep complaining about the struggles of the choices that you're making. There, I said it. And I don't say it to be mean. I don't say it to be harsh. I say it with tough love because the cards are telling me to tell you. This is just that indicator that you got to stop blaming others if you're the one that has the strength to make the decision. If you chose to be the bigger person, and let's say it is the situation that it's because someone or some people are constantly coming to you for that help because you're constantly working hard, you constantly find a way, and yet they're constantly, some families are plagued with constant bad luck. Sometimes they are. They're decent people, they work really hard, and yet bad shit always happens to them, right? Sometimes that does happen. That's not often the case. A lot of the times it's because people made bad financial decisions. They didn't think about the decisions that they made. They weren't fully knowledgeable about, or they weren't fully realistic, and were running purely on hope without understanding fully the consequences of every decision and choice that they made. And that's why the Page of Coins is here. It's not only indicating, it's kind of highlighting it to you that you need to recognize who is taking advantage of you, and how for some people it's a wake-up call. And it's like, hey, you can't keep crying about spilled milk if you're the one constantly spilling the milk. At some point, you have to put the milk or that cup in a place where it's secure. Or quit purposely knocking it over. You know, there at some point there's a give and take with the universe, and at some point you have to face that inner devil that you've got that are helping you make those choices. But you have to understand that you have the strength to do so. You have the strength. Put it into practice. Here we have the Seven of Wands, the indicator of struggle, of hard work. Now, the Seven of Wands is determination, is that indicator of real hard work, genuinely. And how you tackle that. There has to be you have to take that time as you're growing more knowledgeable, putting the things that you're now starting to learn into practice, is how to tackle these things but so that you don't feel overwhelmed. How can you put these things can you tackle these one step at a time, right? You're learning how to become more organized. And this is going to come because it's overwhelm, right? Usually when it's one thing, it just seems, when it rains, it pours, right? And so this is followed by a very interesting series of how our cards lined up. We have the Queen of Cups, someone who's very in tune with their emotions. Then we have the King of Swords, the no bullshit card, right? The no bullshit card. But we're also followed by the Page of Cups. And then we're followed by the King of Wands. We have a lot of high sovereignty cards that are coming out. Now, when it comes to the Queen of Cups, we just entered the Sagittarius strawberry moon, and we are in Cancer season. So the Queen of Cups, a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotion going on right now. But this isn't a disconnect from your emotions. This isn't a emotionally uncontrollable situation. This is a very tactful, emotional movement. The Queen of Wands, I don't know why that came out. The Queen of Cups is not, I want to phrase this correctly so it's not misunderstood. They're very mindful of the way that they express emotion. That does not mean that or how they handle emotion, right? They're very mindful on how they move forward when it comes to dealing with emotions. And I don't mean this as they are completely void of displaying emotion, whether it's frustration, whether it's anger, whether it's sorrow, whether it's sadness, grief. That's not what that means. And it's not the concept of like there's a time and a place for everything. No. The Queen of Cups is not just emotion, but it's about vulnerability. A lot of people think that vulnerability is weakness, and it is not. Vulnerability is strength. If you are strong enough, mind you, we have strength here. If you are strong enough to not worry about others' judgment if you cry, whether it's crying because you're sad, because you're hurt, because you're angry, but those tears shed and flow, you have a strength that no one else can. Because when people think that vulnerability is weak, it's because they feel weak when they cry. Someone who is strong enough to be vulnerable and say, yes, I am sad, and so thus I have the strength to be able to cry because I believe I'm strong enough to handle the judgment of others, even if I cry. I do not care if they see me as weak. I do not care if they see me as a crybaby. I do not care si me creen chiona. I don't care if, they think I'm just a baby and I'm immature. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. That is a strength that people that are truly allowing themselves to be vulnerable, they are truly strong. They are truly strong. If you have the mindset that because someone cries that makes you weak, you need to go to therapy. That's why the King of Swords is here. The King of Swords is someone who is also very mindful, very tactful in the way that they communicate. They don't handle no one's shit, and they don't start shit if they can't handle it. They don't dish what they cannot handle. They cannot bite off more than they can chew. They know exactly how much to bite off, and if it's a big old gulp, they're willing to handle it. That's why these two are together. There comes a time and a place where, as you are learning, mind you, this is also not just material or monetary rather. This is a lot of resources. This also means support. Understanding who you can be vulnerable with, who will help you through any BS. How to figure it out, how to sort it, how to deal with it, how to communicate through it, how to communicate for it. That's why these two cards are here, especially when it comes to the Page of Coins. This is a resource that you're learning to do. You're learning how to be vulnerable, You're learning how to be vulnerable and who to be vulnerable with. And you're also in a state of who can you trust to be wholly confident to communicate with, to communicate and understand. So this communication is not just being mindful of how you communicate with others, but how to handle the communication with yourself. A lot of the times we can be sensitive and we have these emotions when people tell us or give us some tough love to help you strengthen yourself, right? Sometimes the King of Swords represents that tough love. It's not just on how you can learn not to, or how to learn how to wield the sword without necessarily intending to harm, but to disarm. This is also an indicator of learning how to take communication. Not saying that you're allowing disrespect, but how you allow disrespect not to sway you, not to trigger you, not to lie to yourself and say, oh, it didn't bother me, but to let other people know that they're not going to trigger you and pull you from your state of mind. If you're someplace doing a job, handling a situation, and someone tries to pull you out by calling you out your name, by disrespecting you, putting salt on your character, the King of Swords is that indicator of how to handle that information without allowing it to allow you to be unprofessional, right? You can maintain that professional mindset as I'm here to do something. Your influence is not going to affect my getting my job done, my getting my task done, my handling the situation the way it needs to be handled. You're not going to allow that. You're learning how to do these two things. That's why the Page of Coins is here. Remember, it's not just monetary. It could be monetary. It could be because it has to do with someone at work. It could be because it has to do with a partnership, a business partnership, a partnership that's going to bring you in finances. It could be that. It could also be a partnership romantically, a friendship, a family connection. It doesn't matter, but that's what these are here for. Resources, okay, doesn't necessarily just mean monetary. It could be familial support. So let's say it's brother versus sister. Let's say it's cousins, uncles, aunts, mother, father. It doesn't matter. It's just there are a resource. They are a support. So it's considered a resource. It could be any of these things, right? So there's a lot of internal review that's going on because the Hermit is the leading card here, right? So the leading card, so while this is overall what the lesson is, which is learning, the learning stage of all these resources, whatever the resource may be, the Hermit is that beginner card, opening up within by going within, opening up by going within, being real with yourself. Now we have the Page of Cups, another learning card, but it has to do with emotion. It has to do with feelings. A lot of the people that, because I know a lot of people, and trust me, I love you all when I think of you. In the society that we live in the location that we live in the culture that we grew up in the nation that we grew up in, there are so many pressures to be hardworking, to put feelings aside, to be hyper independent, to not rely on anyone, but be there to help everyone, right? That we neglect our feelings. And so we see feelings as something vulnerable because we were taught never to express them, to deal with them in silence. No, because we had to put up the face of absolute strength where no one can see us break because they think that emotions are weak. Emotions are not weak. Because mental breakdowns, emotional breakdowns, spiritual breakdowns are just an overwhelm of what we're not allowing ourselves to deal with because it sucks. Trust me, I've been there. I understand. And that's why I'm here with the Page of Cups to tell you that it is time to quit drowning and hiding those emotions. You need to start dealing with them. You can't hide behind the gym and hide your emotions in your muscles. Your body keeps the score. That neck pain, the stress in your shoulders, that hip that's constantly tight. You're constantly cramping no matter how much water and electrolytes you drink. Have you talked about your feelings? Tough love, my friends. Tough love. Page of Cups is telling you it is time. Quit keeping it behind that wall you put up. Deal with it. Tough love. Tough love today. But it's followed by the King of Wands. The King of Wands. Ugh. The King of Wands, it is someone who is absolutely determined, has a lot of passion, is very hardworking, shows their true dedication to the things that they put their mind to. Very fiery, very passionate, sometimes overly angry, sometimes bottles up so much that they explode, they crash out, they not that they lose control, but that is the epitome of the resting bitch face, where it's like, even though you're trying to put your coping mechanisms into practice when you have a lot of anger or frustration, but it shows in your face. There's a lot of feelings to deal with when it comes to these two, the Cups, the Page of Cups, and the King of Wands. But the King of Wands has that everlasting drive to make sure that they are constantly getting things done. Nothing absolutely wrong with that. But things need to change. And they're gonna change because we're followed by death. A cycle is ending, right? I've explained this before. Death may be literal death that inflicts change, whether we like it or not, or figurative change that a cycle needs to end. The cycle of bad habits, the cycle of, not being organized, the cycle of not learning how to manage his emotions. There's a cycle that needs to end. It's been needing to end. It's been needing to end. The Death card has come out several times, but it's not just the Death card. We also have the Tower card. Now, before these two, in between, we have the Emperor. The Emperor is the almighty sovereign, right? The sovereign of all. The person who is the most knowledgeable. That's why they got to the level that they're at. They are an indicator of reaching. So the image that's depicted here is the image of King Arthur, which is very interesting that it's between death and the Tower. If you don't know the story behind King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table in Avalon, King Arthur was someone who was raised as a nobody. They were raised as a no one. They had no power, and yet they had the ability to pull a magical sword stuck in a stone, because they were indicated to be the chosen leader. Well, that sounds awesome, because he was the king that was needed in order to save their country. They were befallen with a pretty sad story, where King Arthur is betrayed by his first knight and his wife, and that causes the downfall of the kingdom of King Arthur. Which is interesting that it's between the Death card and the Tower, where while you try to achieve this level of greatness that is the Emperor, there is the Tower card. The Tower card is sudden change. It is an indicator that the foundation was not sturdy, the foundation was weak, the foundation was crumbling. So while we try to aspire to reach this level, sometimes we are met with the Tower card, the destruction, the crumbling, because there was an indication that there was something weak that caused the fall of the Tower. That's not a bad thing, because it's followed by the Ace of Coins. The Ace of Coins is renewal. It means a brand new cycle to begin again. That is that hope, that is that indicator. But in order to begin again, we go back to the beginning. We go back to the beginning of learning how to properly manage our resources by reflecting, dealing with our bad habits, finding our strength, how to tackle our hard work one step at a time, becoming emotionally stable, and learning how to properly communicate and not deal with any bullshit. It's all a learning process, right? Through your never-ending determination. Now, there is an end to the cycle, right? This imagery and misunderstanding of this story needs to be rewritten, right? This is why the tower is here. That imagery or that expectation that you have isn't going to work out the way that you think it is unless you handle all of this first, right? That image needs to crumble. You're in a place where things are able to start over to achieve the Empress card. Another powerful card. And I love this card. It is so beautiful. It is depicted by the Virgen de Guadalupe, surrounded by roses, surrounded by the radiant light of enlightenment. Sometimes we strive so hard to be the emperor that we kind of overlook the power of the goddess that is the Empress. The Empress is also powerful, is balanced, is in peace, has learned a lot in a silent way. So, with that being said, let us go forth and with the Mesoamerican Oracle cards, let us see what lesson or message the gods have for us. What lesson do you have to add to this reading? What seed of wisdom? Oh, too many. One, please. What seed of wisdom do you have for us? I know that, well, I want to touch back on the Emperor and the Empress. The Emperor, mind you, this image is shown King Arthur and the image of a sword, right? And here the Empress is depicted surrounded by roses, not wielding anything of mass destruction, right? This depicts softness, humbleness, whereas King Arthur is depicted wearing armor, and while they're surrounded by radiant sunlight as well, you have to keep in mind the true story of King Arthur. The kingdom of Avalon did not last. The kingdom of Avalon fell, and fell because of unwise decisions. The true knight that was supposed to be the first knight was actually the son of the first knight and was overlooked by the father, which is an unfortunate telling. So, why? Wondering why no card flies out. Okay. I don't like to pull cards. I feel that... There we go. We have Gan, which is step up your game. And we have Shimi, transformative releasing. How fitting. Gan. So this is a message for Gan. Gan says, the time is ripe to open up to a role or experience that will allow you to grow or advance your interests and expertise. Whether it's advancing your studies in an area that interests you, taking on a new leadership role, or traveling and connecting with the culture of a place that has been calling you, it is time to step up your game and get out of your comfort zone. Release any stories, thinking, beliefs that could impede this new level of growth and maturity with the aid of fire limpias. Thank your ancestors' constant inspiration with and by diligent offerings. Gan was associated with corn, growth, life, and creation. In the Popol Vuh, humans were made of maize and blood. Corn continues to be recognized as a sacred offering. The Gan glyph was often painted yellow and found in the codices near the offerings of food, a reference to corn sustaining life and being life. The South, the space of discovery and understanding, precedes over Gan and lets us know that there is growth in our willingness to explore new experiences, new roles, and understand what drives us. Gan is the fourth day sign of Tzolk'in. So, I mean, it's a lot of learning. It's got to be done. Next we have Shimi. Transformative releasing. This is a period of releasing and transformation. Take inventory of that which no longer serves you and reflect on the first step you will take to release those things. In order to make the most of this potentially transformative period, recognize that the first step is becoming aware of what needs to be released, and then take action to release it step by step. Make sure each step is something you can commit to. If you're not ready, break the steps down even more. I lost my space. Periods of transformative releasing are some of the most important spaces for self-growth, healing, and are often necessary to make space for all the wonderful things we choose in our lives. A lot of choice and decisions. Shimi associations are death or the termination of something. Remember, we have the death card here. But this day sign isn't necessarily thought of as bad or ominous. Rather, it is often believed that where there is death, there is new life. Death in Mesoamerican thought is typically complemented with rebirth of life and cyclical natural procession. The North, the space of ancestral medicine and wisdom, precedes over Shimi and reminds us that our ancestors are facilitating a more graceful transition. Shimi is the 6th day sign of Tzolk'in. So, I don't make this shit up. So let's finish this off with the Jade Oracle card. What last message do you have for our watchers at this time? We have, oh God, okay. It's Tlatzol Deotol, the spirit of divine love. La del amor divino. Here we go. The spirit of divine love is derived from the Nahuatl word for love. She is associated with purification and healing, often pictured with a glass broom because the ritual act of sweeping symbolized what Tlatzol Teotl does. She purifies. She invented the temazcal, the sweat bath, the central place for ritual and purification in ancient Mexico. She's associated with the moon, menstruation cycles, and snakes. Often picturing giving birth, Tlatzol Teotl, provides you the opportunity to be born again, to begin anew. She reminds us that love always begins with the first step of loving ourselves unequivocally. When you're ready to confront your fears and insecurities and the difficulties in your life, and when you're ready to take responsibility for them, you can ask Tlatzol Teotl, I need to really practice that, for purification. She gives you the strength to face your fears and move forward with your life. She holds you in complete and unconditional love. There she is. Well, can't make this shit up. Pretty much everything I told you guys just reinforced it. So I hope you have a very abundant and beautiful summer solstice. I hope these messages help genuinely. And I mean, I'll see you guys next time.